Hey everyone, this is Matt from In Defense of Plants and welcome to the dunes. Literally, look around us. This is an awesome site and it's one of Illinois' most unique habitat types, a sand prairie. Now this is an ancient landscape formed during the last glacial period. In front of the glaciers would have been these large lakes, and this one in particular was called Lake Chicago. And these sands here today are the ancient shorelines of that lake. They also support one of the most unique plant communities in the area because anything that lives here has to deal with sand, and lots of it. Sand doesn't hold water very long, doesn't have a lot of nutrients, and it tends to move around quite a bit. So come on, let's go see what we can find. Check this plant out. It's golden Corydalis, Corydalis macrantha. It's slightly more robust than its cousin Corydalis flavula, and it has these long, exaggerated nectar spurs. It's more common to the south of here, but this unique habitat offers it a perfect spot to grow in these isolated little pockets. It really enjoys sandy soils. It doesn't do well when other vegetation starts to outcompete it. So if you look around here, these grasses and stuff that are growing up, and occasionally these woody species, without regular fire, this species would largely be crowded out. And in many places in the northern portions of its range, it's considered threatened or endangered. It's an awesome find. Really beautiful little plant, especially up close and personal. This is one of the rarest plants you're going to find in the state of Illinois. This is the oddly named silvery bladder pod. It's a member of the mustard family, and it gets that weird name for two reasons. The silvery part comes from the leaves. They're covered in these dense hairs. And it may seem like a weird thing to do. Think about where it's growing. There's tons of sand here. And just like you can sandblast the paint off the side of your house, you can imagine that any wind picking up sand and moving it around at high speeds in the landscape is going to do damage to sensitive plant tissues. Those dense hairs keep it from sandblasting the plant flat. It's called bladder pod because after these flowers are fertilized, the ovaries swell and create this capsule. The typical slender calyx of a mustard is more exaggerated in this species. They're large and inflated, kind of like a balloon. And to see any large population outside of the state, you'd have to travel hundreds of miles to the west. We're really lucky to have it, and it's all thanks to that glacial legacy we mentioned earlier. Great find. So excited to see this plant. Hey, check it out. It's blue-eyed grass. Believe it or not, it's a member of the iris family. There's a lot of different species in the United States, especially east of the Mississippi. They can be kind of hard to identify, but they're always a treat to find because they're absolutely gorgeous. I'm not even gonna bother trying to keep this one out right here because we'd probably be here until the sun's down, but if you're looking down, especially in an area that's a little more open and disturbed, you might find some of these plants. And it's always a treat when you do. I don't care what anyone tells you. This right here is one of the coolest looking violets in North America. It's the bird's foot violet. It gets that name because its leaves are deeply cut and kind of superficially resemble a bird's foot. You can distinguish it from the prairie violet because the center of the petals here isn't hairy. It's a highly variable species in color. You can find ones that are deep purple all the way up to a very light lavender. You will only find this species in the sandiest soils, hence it's doing really well in this location. I can't believe how much of it we're actually seeing. It's a real pleasure to find this species in such profusion. It's a daylight plant, so it's responding to the relative length of day and night. And as the days get longer, especially in relation to the amount of nighttime hours, this plant will stop blooming. So we're only gonna be able to enjoy it for a few more weeks. Can't believe, again, how much we're seeing. This is a really special event, and I'm so excited to be here at peak bloom. Awesome find. Look at that, a cactus. It's a prickly pear. I know some of you might be asking, what's a cactus doing in Illinois? And I agree, it is a little bit weird, but this specific species, Opuntia fragilis, is the most northerly growing cactus of any of the cactus species. I think you can even find it as far north as the Arctic Circle. It's pretty nuts. Now winters are a little hard on these species. As you can see, they're looking a little rough, but as the spring rains come around, they'll start to swell up, they'll produce these giant, beautiful flowers that are calling pollinators from far and wide. And anytime a pad breaks off, it'll grow into a new colony. So it's a pretty resilient plant, and especially resilient for a cactus. It's an amazing find, and this particular place has got the most abundant populations of this Opuntia that I've ever seen. It's an awesome discovery to see in such numbers. Good find. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the Sand Prairie. This place is so cool, and unfortunately places like this are getting harder and harder to find. That's why if you care about the environment, please get out and support your local land conservancy agencies, because it's places like that that are buying up and protecting properties such as this. If you're enjoying these videos, please hit subscribe and continue to follow us on all our social media accounts. I really appreciate the support so far, and join us next time for another botanical adventure. Thanks everyone.